Today, hey everybody, this is TCG Productions. Today is Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. About 5.5 minutes before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Apparently I really need to clean my camera's lens or something like that, I don't know. But we are down to about the last couple minutes before I permanently shut down my old system core. That's what I'm listening to at the moment. So, but I'm signed out of everything that could possibly throw a fit. Yeah, I'm signed out of everything that could possibly throw a fit should the system's hardware ID suddenly change beneath it. Because for all intents and purposes, applications are going to see it as a whole new system, and all the drives have simply been transplanted over. I actually got bit by that a number of years ago whenever I moved an SSD from my Asus Q550LF laptop, which is now permanently decommissioned, over to my Dell Latitude E6520 laptop. Yeah, I opened Firefox and went to a Google site, and about 10 seconds later I got a critical security alert on my phone, and I found that my session had been unexpectedly and very suddenly disconnected, so to speak. Basically, Google had checked the hardware ID on the session, and the hardware ID associated with my login tokens was not the same hardware ID that had been detected on the running system. And so it assumed the worst. It assumed that an attacker had swapped the drive over to their own system, booted it up, and was about to gain access to the account. And so they slammed the door on that session as hard as they could. And I actually had to change my password. Thankfully, I only had one Google account signed in at the time, but still, it was a bit of a hassle to get that cleared up. So, yeah, imagine that with like 15 or 20 accounts of varying descriptions. I mean, 5 or 6 Google accounts, Proton Mail, Steam, Discord, so on and so forth. Yeah, you can imagine. I'd rather not go through that. Well, especially Firefox, since I would have to enter recovery keys in order to decrypt my account data and everything again. So yeah, I spent like 20 minutes doing that. But yeah, an 8-year run is about to come to an end on this system core. MSI PCMate Z97 motherboard, also known as an MSI MS-7850, Intel Core i7-4790K, and the RAM is not the same RAM I originally started out with on this system core. I upgraded from that, gave it to a friend. He's still running it to this very day. But the motherboard has been in service for almost 8.5 years. CPU's been in service for almost 8 years to the day, but it's time. So with that, let's shut this thing down for the very last time. I'll let the music fade out. There it goes. VLC has been shut down. Its icon has disappeared out of the system tray. Put the speaker selector over to headphones. Turn the stereo off. Turn the power off to the stereo. Turn the headphone amp off. Turn my DAC off. Here we go. Shutting it down. Shutting this system core down for the very last time. That monitor is connected to a media server. There they go. Come back here, find the power switch, and just like that, standby power has been turned off for the very last time on this system core. So what do you say we go ahead and finish putting the new system core together and put this whole thing in? Well, here we are. We are back in the tech room. As you saw at the beginning of this video, I've just shut down my main workstation's old system core for the last time. I have not yet lugged the system in here because it's big and bulky and heavy, and I want to get this more delicate stuff done before I bring the system in here. So there's been some developments since the last time I recorded video. So I did end up getting a 4 terabyte SSD for my birthday. So, but it is a Crucial T700, 4 terabytes in size. I know there's not the official labeling on it. This was the one with the integrated heatsink, and I decided that I'm going to give the motherboard heatsink, the motherboard's built-in heatsink, a try. And so I have, for the time being, temporarily removed it from the factory heatsink. But if it turns out that the factory heatsink is not enough to keep the SSD cool, then I'll put it back into its original heatsink and go from there. So we have that. So I've got that installed already and everything. But the RAM, and the other SSD are in. So we'll start out with the other SSD. This is just going to be a boot. This is just going to be a boot drive, and basically the 4 terabyte SSD. Okay, strange things are happening with this tape. Basically, the 4 terabyte SSD is going to be the new main data drive, because the 2 terabytes that I've always had for like the last 8 years, 8.5 plus years for my main data drive, it's starting to become insufficient, because right now I've got around 500, but somewhere between 500 and 550 gigabytes free on my home drive, and it's getting a little tight. So I went up to 4 terabytes for the new main data drive, in this case the SSD, and I wanted a nice high performance boot drive as well, but I didn't need something that was like 1 or 2 extra terabytes, since most of that would end up being wasted space. And I could find, you can find 128 gigabyte NVMe SSDs, but they're slower and lower end. I wanted something that was at least PCIe Gen5, and this is it. I think it's a Gen 4 X1 link, because it's only 4,000 megabytes a second read, and I imagine it'll probably be around anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 write. So I mean, this is plenty fast for just a simple boot drive. And I have thought about putting, oh, by the way, since I've got these new SSDs, I'm going to be reinstalling Debian Linux. onto the system as well. We're not going to do that in this video because that is going to be a very long, arduous process. So yeah, there she is. But basically, that's going to be a long, arduous process because the install that I've got is well over 4 years old. It's rapidly approaching 4.5 actually. So, but yeah. I had another look at the motherboard's user manual and the install and the PCIe block diagram, and basically here's what I have come up with. This top slot here where the 4TB SSD is installed is in fact PCIe Gen5, supports an X4 link. Camera won't focus on it. If it is focusing, it seems to be a little bit on the softer side. Oh well. PCIe 5 X4 link, guaranteed to work no matter what you install in any of these other slots. PCIe X16, if you put an X16 card in here, it disables this lower X4 slot, and it also disables the second PCIe 5 slot as well. So that tells me there are a grand total of 20. A grand total of 20 PCIe 5 lanes to go around, and so the the top SSD gets 4 of them. Yeah, the top SSD slot is guaranteed 4 of them. And if you put an X16 card in this slot, it locks out, it occupies all the other lanes, and so this slot ends up starved of PCIe 5 lanes and therefore ends up getting locked out. And same with this slot down here. This again ends up starved of lanes and therefore ends up getting locked out. Now, these lower 2 slots and this bottom PCIe X4 slot, this is PCIe 4. And same with these 2. So, and these 3 all share lanes. These 3 all end up having to share bandwidth and lanes. And I think there's like 40 something. I think there's like 40 some odd lanes to go around for all of those and whatnot. I think. Don't quote me on that. So I'm going to put the boot SSD in one of these 2 lower slots. So there's we've got a couple of options here. I can put it in this slot here. Yeah, I can put the SSD in this slot here, or I could put it in this slot here. I think I might put it in this slot, in this long slot here. And the reason this slot is as long as it is because this is a 22110. This is the 22110 form factor slot, whereas the rest of these are 2280 slots. And so this 22110 slot can accept up to drives up to 110 millimeters long, and those drives aren't very common. However, they are there. You usually find them in enterprise class storage and whatnot. So you do have the option of installing a 22110 device on this board if you are so inclined. However, I've just got a pair of 2280 devices, and so I think I am going to put this SSD in this 22110 slot, because right now I don't foresee myself requiring anything that is only available in a 22110 form factor. So I mean, installation is going to be fairly simple. There's adhesive, there's basically thermal pads included. So I'll have to remove this thermal pad here, remove the protective film over top of that thermal pad, and then I'll pop the SSD out. I'll insert it into the slot here, and this just, I'll need to pull the, I think I'll need to pull the, oh, okay. I guess the retention clip here gave way and allowed the SSD to come out and will drop in. And then removing the SSD is also pretty simple. Should be pretty simple. Looks like you push down and back, and with a little bit of effort the SSD comes out. So yep, that's all good and everything. And then I'll remove the protective film from the thermal pad on this heatsink, and it's pretty easy to tell which one is the right one because this is the only 22110 form factor thermal pad. And then all that's left is to put this in place and click it down. There we go, SSD installed. So, is that in the right spot? Yep. There we go. SSD is installed. And now, almost the last thing we need for a fully functioning system core is some fully functioning memory. And so I've got some G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB, all 48 gigabytes of it. So we've got a pair of 24 gigabyte sticks that we'll be installing onto the motherboard in slots 2 and 4. I should probably zoom in on the relevant area of the motherboard. So yeah, we'll be putting these in slots 2 and 4. So that way it sits at the very ends of the memory channels, and those signals do not just bounce off the ends, off the open electrical ends of the memory channels and mangle data and whatnot. Time to open up. I'm going to open up this memory kit. There they are. Now these are quoted as being around 38 odd millimeters tall, and the Noctua heatsink has clearance up to 40 or so millimeters. So everything should fit together. Fingers crossed. So we do get a nice little shiny sticker, which I will no doubt be applying to the case. We get a little information card here. Yeah, slots 2 and 4. So now I can get this open. There we go. So now go ahead and take one module out, and let's see, get that back in, figure out how to orient the motherboard and the camera. Get this all set up. There we go. And let's see. Okay, module needs to be turned around. You know what? Let's put it in this slot first. There's one module installed. And there's 2 modules installed. So there we go. We're 95% of the way to a new. We're 95% of the way to a new system core, to a fully functioning system core. Now, one last thing that I have to do, other than install this one and remove the old one, is to pull the heatsink off of the processor and clean it off. So Yeah, one last thing that I have to do is pull my Noctua NH-D14 heatsink off of my old motherboard. Clean the thermal paste off. Clean the thermal paste off of it. Clean the integrated heat spreader. Get rid of skin oils and whatnot, and apply new thermal paste. And go ahead, get that set in place. Get the fans hooked up. And then we can go ahead and get this thing dropped in, fired up, and well, it's either going to boot up or blow up, one of the two. Alright, here we are. The main workstation is on the operating table, the tech room workbench. With what we're about to do to it, you might as well call it an operating table, because we're about to do some brain surgery on this thing. So basically, we are about to pull the old system core out, move the heatsink over, and put the new system core in. And so yeah, this case is huge, and this whole thing put together is probably 40 or 50 pounds. I'm not kidding. It's that heavy. So yeah, I think we'll start with the easiest to get to stuff first, such as the USB connector for the Bluetooth adapter on my wireless card, which will not be carried over. And then we've got the front panel audio connector down here. I know you can't see it. We've got the piezoelectric squeaker can buzzer thing, which will be carried forward. And then we've got, you know what, might help if I just take the camera off the tripod. And then we've got all of the front panel headers down here. And I'm just going to pull these out with no particular care or caress. So then I'm going to pull the 8-pin power connector out of the GPU. We will be reusing this. I don't know if it's going to be plugged back into the GPU or if it's going to be plugged into the 8-pin connector on the motherboard for auxiliary power. Got the wireless card down here. This card has been munched on by this system core and will not be returning to service. So we've got our heatsink with our fans on it, and then we've got our 6 serial ATA connectors down there. 2 of those will be left disconnected for the time being. So yeah, I can find where I put my screwdriver. There it is. Go ahead and start pulling the last 2 expansion cards out of here. And then so back here, almost completely inaccessible and totally invisible to the camera because I can't get in there enough to make it fit. There is the expansion card release tab for this slot, and it is a little bit of a multi-step operation to get to it, but basically that's how I just got to it. I pulled the card, I tilted the card back, and then I was able to push the button down, push the tab down on the slot to release it, and now the card has come out. Yes, this is dusty. I have not cleaned this system in a while, and this is a bit of a dusty old house, to quote UXW Bill. So this card is obviously going to be carried forward to the new system core, and so that will go out of the way. This wireless card will not be carried over to the new system core. This will be going away. So now we've got a number of cables left to disconnect. We've got 6 SATA cables. We've got the USB 3 cable here. We've got the ATX 24-pin power connector and some miscellaneous fan cables and whatnot. So this blue cable here goes to my USB 3 card reader, which also exposes the USB 3 port for my convenience. This black USB 3 cable here actually goes with my computer case. And then we've got the ATX 24-pin power connector. Okay, looks like that was making very good contact, nothing burnt or charred. We've got 6 serial ATA devices, or at least they're cables here. And we'll figure out who's on first, what's on second. I don't know who's on third. I don't care. It's a short stop. All that. I'll figure that out whenever I get the new system core put in here. And then here comes the more challenging part, is dealing with that heat sink, because I need to remove both fans from it and get them disconnected. I do not have a lot of slack on their cables, because that is how I cable manage them. So these will just have to go out of the way for now. And now I can get down here with the screwdriver and start backing off the mounting screws and start backing off the mounting screws. So go ahead, crack them loose. And then it'll just be a bunch of back and forth like this, going between the mounting screws until both of them have fully released and the heatsink comes off of the mounting brackets. We're getting close. We're real close. And yeah, there we go. Now the heatsink comes off. And I know the thermal paste application is a little bit splotchy. I've had it on and off of the processor a few times since I last repasted everything. In fact, the most recent event was not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, whenever I stripped this system down to like a minimum emergency configuration, and I pulled 2 of the RAM sticks out. And speaking of RAM, I'll go ahead and pop the last 2 sticks of memory out of the system for the last time. So I've got one good 32 gigabyte memory kit. So then we've got the CPU power connector way up over here. And I will need to break into my power supply box and pull some new cables out. And pull at least at least 1 cable out, because the new motherboard has 2 8-pin power connectors for the CPU. And then we've got a couple of fan cables to disconnect, some screws to undo, and then this whole thing should lift out of here. So there's the CPU there's the CPU fan connector. This goes to a splitter, so that way I can run both of my CPU fans off of one fan header, because the other fan header, which is labeled as CPU fan 2, is the only other fan header on this motherboard that runs in PWM mode. And that goes to my 6-fan hub on the other side of the case. And that 6-fan hub has most of my case fans connected to it. So, yeah. Now, all I have to do is undo a few screws and this system core should be up and away. So, and now, okay, what's holding us up? Nothing, apparently. Go. We are out. Now, these mounting brackets and whatnot, these go with a socket mounting kit for, I think, LGA 1150 and 1151, and some other socket. Yeah, 11. Let's see, LGA 1366, 1156, 775. It works on 1150 as well, and I think it might even work on 1151. So, but yeah, there we go. And fun fact, the stock heatsink that came with this processor has never been taken out of the box. I think I've still got the box sitting around somewhere, and it still has the heatsink, and heatsink fan still in it. And the reason being is that it's the same. It's the same terrible little stock cooler that Intel has been shipping with processors for, as of now, probably the better part of 25 years. And so this CPU has been socketed in place for like 8 years. This CPU has been socketed in place for almost 8 years continuous. So, and I've got a custom overclocking profile applied to it and whatnot. And I almost don't want to disconnect that CMOS battery. That battery has been connected for over 8 years continuous as well. So, yeah, all of this has been together almost since the beginning, and I had to put this backplate on here and everything. I did this at about 5 o'clock. I did all of this about 5 o'clock one morning, because I got up at 4:30, shut the system down, got all the parts together, came in here. Either that, no, I didn't. I did it on my bed in my room whenever I put all of this together. So, yeah, it's been a minute. So, but yeah, it was time, because this thing was just worn out. I think I wore the whole motherboard out, in all honesty, because I've edited almost if not all of my videos that I've uploaded for the past 8 years on this board and this processor. So, yeah, a little bit bittersweet, but at least I get a nice upgrade out of it. So I'll set this motherboard off to the side. I still actually have the box that this motherboard came in, and I've still got the box my heatsink came in and everything like that. So, okay, I think the next thing I want to do, is get the, I don't know if I want to get the new motherboard in now and then put the heatsink on top of it. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock the I/O shield out. So here it is, typical razor sharp. You could probably shave with it. you could probably shave with the metal edges on this I/O shield. And the new motherboard has an integrated I/O shield on it, and so I won't have to worry about installing that whenever I put this board in, because it's a permanently attached component, and this thing is impressively heavy. So one thing I will do is verify that all the standoffs are in reasonably correct locations. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Yeah, everything looks good. I think this motherboard is actually wider than my old one. Yeah, it is. Okay. My hands are getting tired. That's how heavy this motherboard is. This motherboard weighs like 6 pounds. So what I'll do is I'll set this down into place and guide it into place, and then let's see, is this all the way in? Yep. I just hit one of the buttons on the back. I don't know which one. Okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll get these first 6 screws put in place, but I will probably have to get the box. I'll probably have to get my big case box down in order to gain access to the remaining screws. So I'll pin it in on the opposite corners first. And then I'll do, let's see, let's do one at the back over here in the middle. And then I need to pop the top SSD heatsink out for this, because there's a screw hole that is otherwise totally inaccessible. So I forgot that you should leave all of these screws a little bit loose whenever you're mounting up a brand new motherboard. And sometimes things do need a little bit of tweaking and adjustment to fit right. I'll go ahead and snug that down so that I can put the heatsink back on. Then I'll go ahead and start plugging in some of our loose connectors, such as the front panel audio. I know you couldn't see me plug that in. And you see, front panel will be buried somewhere over in there. And we've got a pair of USB 3 headers on the side of this motherboard. And so let's see. Oh, it looks like the alignment tab is at the top of these headers. So we'll go ahead and plug the 24-pin ATX power in. There we go. So nice and secure. We've got, let's plug in the sysfan 1. I just plugged in the connector that goes to my fan splitter hub. And then let's see, can I cable in back there a little bit better? Yes, I can. Alright, there's the CPU fan header plugged in. And yeah, I'll make this easy. This will go back to the GPU. And then I'll just pull in another cable for the auxiliary power connector. And there's the CPU header. There's the CPU power connector. And I need to pull another one of those in. Actually, I need to rotate this one around for the orientation of the connector on this motherboard. Alright, here's that plugged in. And this will go to the GPU. USB 3, 4 SATA ports. I don't want to put the heatsink on just yet. I want to go ahead and get those other power cables pulled in. Yeah, I want to go ahead and get those other two power cables pulled in. Go ahead and unlock the slot here. Okay, let's see how my GPU fits in here. I want to get as many cables connected first and try to figure out what order everything needs to be hooked up in. There we go. Okay, so that works as expected. And go ahead and snug down these other screws. Since I think I've got everything in here like it needs to be. Take this thermal paste guard off of here for now, so that way that does not get irretrievably lost somewhere when I tilt the system back up. So let's see, put these fans somewhere where they hopefully won't go clattering around in the case. And yeah, I'll shut the camera off, get cables pulled in, and everything managed about how like I want it to. Then I'll clean the heatsink and the processor's integrated heat spreader, and get all the cables, get most of the cables hooked up. And then we'll go ahead and drop the heatsink onto the processor, get that all thermal pasted up and everything, and we will go from there. Okay, I am back. Not short but not long amount of time later, and I've got just about everything hooked up the way I want it to. I've got the ATX 24-pin power hooked up, got the fan splitter hub at the back and the fan hub, the CPU fan splitter hooked up. Have both the 8-pin power connectors hooked up. I have both the 8-pin CPU power connectors hooked up. Got this other wire pulled in and hooked up to the auxiliary power connector on the motherboard. I've got both USB 3 headers hooked up. I've got the USB Type-C header hooked up, 27 watts fast charging. And I've got 4 SATA devices hooked up. I've got the boot and home SSDs, as well as my video editing and Steam games drives once again. I have not yet cleaned the integrated heat spreader up on the processor, nor have I cleaned the thermal paste off of the heatsink yet. But that is what we're going to be doing next. Heatsink there, and we'll be using the Noctua thermal paste. We'll be using the Noctua cleaning wipes. The NA-CW1 cleaning wipe. And I think these are just 90 some odd % isopropyl alcohol. And these are Yeah, and this stuff's real good at breaking down old thermal paste junk that ends up on the heatsink. And so, pull it open, pull the wipe out, unfold it, and go to town on this. Okay, that worked really well. That was easy. And I'll use a, and then there's no heat sink paste. There's no thermal paste or anything on the processor's IHS yet. And just wait on the isopropyl alcohol to dry, evaporate off of everything. And I think during that, then once that happens, I can apply the thermal paste to the processor's integrated heat spreader. And then put everything together, fire it up. Get my NTH1 thermal paste out while I quickly look up what the thermal paste pattern should be. And almost forget to install the thermal paste guard on the processor. Okay, looks like it's all dried out. And let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's all dried off. Seeing that leftover stuff. Seeing that stuff left behind on the processor is IHS. I think I'm gonna go over it one more time. This is making the bold assumption that I can actually extract the cleaning wipe from the packaging. There we go. And I'll let that dry out. And once that dries out, we'll go ahead, throw some thermal paste on here, set the heatsink into place. Just a quick sanity check. Okay, does not look like it's going to impede with the RAM. I think that's why Noctua has rotated the mounting pattern 90 degrees on this cooler, because it used to be the cooler would mount with the screws on this side, but now it mounts as shown with the screws vertically instead of horizontally. And I think they did that because memory modules are getting taller with their integrated heat spreaders and whatnot. And so, of course, I'm going to have the fan in the middle, and I think I'm going to have the other fan pointed at the rear exhaust. I don't think that's, yeah, for some reason I don't think that is 90% isopropyl alcohol or some other really high purity formulation in there, because it almost looks like there's some it almost looks like there's some crud that it's leaving behind. So I don't think that'll impact performance and cooling performance too much. But anyways, we've got our NTH1 10-gram tube with a few grams removed because I used it before. We have a camera that does not want to focus on the product. There we go. NTH1 10-gram tube of thermal paste. And I've seen people do different applications, different application methods with this. I normally put a nice dot in the center, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Put a nice dot in the center of the IHS. Okay, that is probably on the excessive side, but there's been videos done on thermal paste application in the past and whatnot, and generally, as long as you manage to cover the IHS where all the critical parts lie, you should be good and golden. So, I'm going to locate my screwdriver over on one of the chest freezers that has been used, misused, and abused as a computer repair desk and workbench in times past. Going to place the heatsink on top, line everything up. Alright, there we go. Start out with 4 turns on each screw. Okay, seated in place. And then I'm going to alternate back and forth 2 turns each. Alright, we are tightened down. We are not interfering with the memory modules, which is awesome. And now, make sure that the slot is unlocked. And I'm going to clear one of these away so that way I can put my SCSI controller back in. And I don't know what I have done with the original blanking plates that were on this case. I think I've quote-unquote donated them to some of my other computers, which are presently in storage. And with as gloomy and gray and wet and nasty as the weather is outside, oh, that's great. Apparently this screw does not happen to have enough reach to properly. There we go. Crank it down real good and it finally seats in place. But as nasty as the weather is outside, it's this gloomy gray out there with persistent, slow, drizzly mist in the air. I'd rather not go outside. So now I'm going to take my GPU, and this should more or less just plunk into place. I'll go ahead, hit the locking button, go ahead and lock it up in the slot. Put the slot bracket screws in. Actually, I'm going to take the GPU back out, so that way I've got enough room to peel off all of the plastic covering all of these shiny bits. There we go. So I'm going to get in here and pull off all of the protective plastic covering all of the shiny bits in here. I just peeled the one off over the heatsink. That wasn't very satisfying. A bit right here comes off. And then there's another piece of protective film over the postcode display. And another piece of protective film over one of the VRM heat sinks, because it's got some shiny metal on it. I think that's all the little shiny protective bits removed. Now we can actually go ahead and put the GPU in place. I think in due time I will be upgrading to something along the lines of probably a Radeon RX 7900 XTX or something like that. We're going to hold off. I'm probably going to hold off on that until the first quarter of 2025 or something like that, because Radeon RX 8000 is supposed to be launching Q1 of 2025. So those are nice and tightened down. There's the PCIe power connector. There we go. That is in. I don't have any custom RGB accessories, but I do have a SCSI controller to install. Hopefully, I do not need to get creative with tools or mounting solutions. It looks like I might have to, unfortunately. I know the last time I had to do something, I had to get creative with the mounting on this thing. I ended up having to bend this tab 90 degrees out and then wedge something else in behind it to make it fit. And I don't, unfortunately, I don't really happen to have one of these cards that has a full height mounting bracket. There we go. Yeah, I just took a pair of pliers and bent the thing 90 degrees. It'll fit in there. And then I think I've got the adapter shim or whatever I made kicking around in here. So that is that's going to be Glader's problem. And now, I think just for now, I'm going to screw the slot retention screw back in. I had this mounted up decently okay-ish on the old motherboard because I had a PCIe to PCI adapter. I had a PCIe to PCI slot adapter installed. And let's see. Oh, might be heading for something of a problem here. Okay. Let's pull the 24-pin ATX connector. So I can reroute these wiring for these fans as I need to. Yeah, this is always a hard part, is cable management, especially with very tall memory modules. Alright, fans are installed. I've got them in a push-pull config that'll draw air from over here and push it that way. I've got the GPU installed. I've got both NVMe SSDs installed. I've got both SATA SSDs and my two main data drives plugged in. I've got the SCSI controller in. GPU is obviously in. USB 3s are hooked up. Power to the GPU is hooked up. Motherboard aux power is hooked up. Both 8-pin CPU power connectors are hooked up. ATX 24-pin is hooked up. CPU fan splitter is hooked up, and same with the hub at the fan hub at the back. All the protective plastic has been peeled off. The RGB switch is set to on. I don't know much else that we can do other than hook it up and throw the switch and see if it goes bang. So I am going to get things put away, shuffled around and shuffled around a bit. Yeah, I'm going to get things put away and shuffled around a little bit, whatnot, and we will likely be reconvening very shortly. So I've got everything. Well, there goes the camera's focus again. So I've got everything plugged in: power, network, video, keyboard, and mouse. And now we're about to throw the switch and see what happens. So this is how it looks. A little bit dark over here because I've got that lamp turned off, so that way it's not glaring off of the monitor. So let's throw the switch on $2,000 and see what happens. 3, 2, 1. Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole. Oh, we have a very happy-go-lucky glowy power indicator. Do we want to use that? Or do we want to use the button on the case? I don't know. Let's hit the one on the motherboard. Whoop. Whoop. RAM just came up. Don't have post yet. We are stepping through postcodes. Alright, all the fault LEDs have extinguished. Alright. We have a yellow fault LED, which has since gone out. That would be for DRAM. Now you can't hardly read that. We're probably doing memory training right now. If I had... Oh! Monitor shows something's happening. Hey, what do you know? We have a sign of life. Something about the FTPM and a new CPU being installed and whatnot. And it blanked out. I don't know what we're doing. And we've got, here we go. DRAM size is, and it's, okay. Looks like it's just decided to go ahead and kick us out in the system setup. The boot fault LED is lit. That's only because the system has not yet booted. There is some RGB. However, the RGB on the RAM is kind of covered up by the heatsink. So let's see, PBO auto or Oh, I guess we just turned on PBO. Okay. And our core temperature is 55°C. And falling. Okay. I don't know what display resolution we've got here, or exactly what we're doing. So let's go kill some more lights. So we've got CPU, game boost. This is a very sensitive mouse. Game boost off equals game boost disable. We've got an AI boost thing here. Memory. We've got an XMP profile, DDR5 8000. BIOS was built August 29th of this year. Let's kick the temperature measurement over to degrees Fahrenheit. FTPM 2.0, easy LED control, and ERP ready. Not sure exactly what that is. Precision boost overdrive. Oh hey, we have a working scroll wheel. I'm going to set that to disabled for now. What is this? Memory try it. Okay, that's generic help. Okay. So this is probably a list of timings that you can try to set the memory to. GPU and driver, we'll turn that off. We'll turn off the driver utility installer because I'm running Linux and I really don't want it trying to beat and bang and barge its way in through an encrypted file system, which it has no hope of achieving any hope of luck. Oh, reminds, let me see, can we? Yeah, it's like when the tab key gets stuck on your keyboard and now it's just going through a whole web page full of stuff. CPU fan 1, sys fan 1. Got memory information, storage here. So M2.1 is our 4TB NVMe SSD. M2.3 is our 250 gig SSD. S1, S2, P3, S1, S2, P3, P4. What? I don't know if that's supposed to be like that or not. But it's there. DRAM. Oh, we get, that's neat. We get module temperature information, 86 degrees. That's nifty. We got CPU settings, memory settings, fan profile settings. Sunday, November 3rd, that's wrong. It's about a day and a half off, about 36 hours fast. So let's see. So this is information about the processor. 4.4 gigahertz, 44x ratio. There's a CPU ID. 12 cores, microcode B40401C, 576K of L1, 12 megs of L2, 64 megs of L3. So it'd be about, what, 80 megs? And we've got pretty much everything except SSE 5. Let me see. User 1, JDEC, XMP1. I don't quite know what I'm doing here. Enter, press number key to change profile. Okay. I don't know if I'm setting the timing options on the RAM or what. I'm going to back out of this menu if I can get the mouse to cooperate. Let's kick this thing over into advanced mode. There we go. Huh, okay, so if I mouse over here, this goes away, but when I mouse out, it comes back. Okay, it's pretty neat. It is November 2nd, 2024. And let's see, it is 1520 watt. Main office computer says it's about 1521, so We'll 0 the seconds counter. This is just some information here. Well, that's cool. We have momentum on our scrolling. Pretty nifty. DMI information. Serial number to be filled by OEM. I've never seen the serial number filled out on a non-OEM motherboard. In fact, I've actually seen a few OEM motherboards that did not have that filled out. SKU number and family. Okay. So nothing too exciting there. Let's go into advanced. Let's go into the exposure settings too and turn that up. We got PCIe subsystem settings, resizable bar. Okay, M2.1. Says it's auto. Gen switch, chipset gen switch, PCIe 1 lane config. Apparently you're only supposed to use this with an MSI M.2 expander expansion card. Lane config will depend on CPU specification, obviously. ASPM and SR IOV support. Single root I/O virtualization support for Type 1 hypervisors. Okay. Makes sense. ACPI settings. Power LED blinking, it says, or CPU overtemperature alert. Auto. Now let's turn that on. Blinking or dual color. Let's go blinking. That's probably when the system's in sleep mode. Integrated peripherals, GPU detection is auto. We've got 2 entries for the onboard LAN controller, which I assume corresponds to the gigabit NICs. One of these is going to be for the 5 gigabit, and the other one of these is going to be for the 2.5 gigabit NIC. So that could use some clarification. Network stack. That's going to be for the UEFI network stack if you wanted to ever PXE boot this thing. Okay. That is as it should be. HCI. Smart button. Huh, okay. That's strange. They've got smart button and rear smart key under the audio configuration header. They've also got it in the the integrated peripherals menu. And we've got smart button as well as rear smart key. So I'm not sure which one of these does what. I don't know if there's a smart button on the motherboard. There does not appear to be. So that could, again, use some clarification. Either way, I'm going to make both of these safe boot. Overclocking. It's defaulted to Expert OC Explorer mode. Okay, memory change detect. So we got a bunch of voltage controls here. And let's see. AXMP, optimized performance profile. Hynix 24 gig DDR 6000. When an appropriate memory kit is detected. Configures a performance-optimized DDR5 memory controller and fabric configuration based on the processor model. When an appropriate memory kit is detected, note this is an overclocking feature which will configure elevated memory voltages. The feature may not be compatible with all memory kits and configurations. Okay. We've got AXMP, which enables XMP on our memory kit. And then we can manually select, oh look, DDR5 12,000. How about that? Now let's set that back to where it should be. I'm having a hard time balancing the exposure settings here on the camera between the various menus and whatnot. I'm going to leave XMP off for now. Memory context restore. DRAM retraining is avoided when possible and post latency is minimized. Okay, I'm not going to turn that on just yet because I don't know what memory settings I want to run. And then we can configure timings and sub-timings and turnaround timings. Power down enable. Okay. Data scramble. Data scrambling. Data scramble EN. I think that's a leftover from a debug version of this BIOS. I don't know if this is like memory encryption or what. Auto will set ECC to enable. Okay. We've got drive strengths. I'm not going to mess with any of that. We're just going to back on out of there. Okay, so I'm not going to tamper with anything in here at the moment. Let's go security. Administrator password, user password, and a U key. U key for USB help. Okay, apparently right-clicking stores things in your favorites menu. Okay, I don't know what this is supposed to be. Trusted computing, so that'd be the TPM. We do have a TPM on board, which is nice. We can turn it off. And we can change the various encryption options for the TPM. So, I have no reason to mess with the TPM at this moment. Chassis intrusion configuration. I don't have a chassis intrusion sensor. And secure boot. That's enabled. I'm going to turn it off. Yeah, secure boot. I'm going to turn that off for now. Mainly because a copy of Debian that I'm running was installed with secure boot turned off, and so I don't want to do anything that'll make it brick. So, and boot settings. Boot configuration, logo display is on, numlock state is on, post beep, we'll turn that on. Fixed boot order priorities. UEFI hard disk. Okay, so it looks like these are just selecting priority groups, and then you actually have to go and configure your priority groups elsewhere. UEFI USB floppy. Huh. I didn't know that was a thing. Profile. Okay. Let's go to the BIOS log. So these are the settings that I've changed. Fan fail warning enabled, secure boot disabled, driver installer disabled, turned on the post beep, enabled the overtemp alert, set the smart button to safe boot, and disabled PBO. Performance preset. Leave that where it is. Smart button. Huh, okay, apparently the smart button corresponds to your case's front panel reset button. So I'll set that. You're now choosing front reset default and rear. Whoa, what is going on here? Someone forgot to localize. Okay, well actually someone forgot about internationalization there. Then we've got profile. Okay, I guess this is for overclocking. And hardware monitor. We've got CPU fans, PWM, And these, yeah, sysfan 1, that's going to be the case fan. So we're just going to crank that up to 100%, I think. Yep, now we seem to be doing something. Now we can set it to 0%. Oh, there we go. I hear him ramping up. I guess it takes a little bit before it things up. We got CPU fan 1. This is on smart fan mode. And apparently whenever I set it to display in Fahrenheit, that also changed the that also changed the display, the temperature displays over here as well. 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 20%. Yeah, that's strange. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Okay. My question is, where do I view my boot devices? Like, I can see them over in, I can see them over here. I don't know how it's mapping these to the devices on the boot order. Let's save changes and reboot and see what happens. Okay, system appears to have reset. And there's a post beep. Oh wow, this thing has a CSM. That's interesting. What happens if we switch this to RAID mode and save and exit? I think this long pause here before anything happens is the delay from the SCSI controller initializing and scanning for devices. There we go. Have our happy little post beep. And switching to RAID mode did us absolutely no good. Cheerful little post beep again. And now all of our SATA devices have returned. My question is, how do I get this thing to boot from those SATA devices? Unless I have to boot in CSM mode. I think that might be the fly in the ointment. Okay. Oh, there we go. Well, we just added a bunch of devices to our boot list. Let's go boot. And now we have 13 boot devices. The more the merrier, I guess. Save and exit, see what happens. Maybe we'll see the, maybe we'll get to see the SCSI controller actually come up rather than just a blank underscore. Okay, I guess we don't get to see the SCSI controller come up no matter how we set this. And there we go, we've got our post beep. Have a blinking underscore. And Grub has just started up. Awesome. So yeah, the SCSI controller is causing interesting abnormalities. Well, the case fans have just come up to 100%. Let's hit reset here and get into the BIOS. There we go. And then it looks like we've got one detected bootable USB device here. So now let's go and set this thing up for DDR5 8000. And yeah, that changed a whole bunch of stuff. Probably just loading the XMP profile from the SPI module, from the SPI chips on the memory modules. Sure. And it immediately freezes. DRAM fault light is illuminated. Postcode. Oh, wait. I guess it's doing memory training. DRAM fault light is out. Going through postcodes faster than the display can, faster than the postcode display can show them. Alright, keyboard controller just initialized, and we have our happy post beep. Hey, what do you know? What do you know? We can do DDR5 8000. Okay, that's absolutely and totally awesome. So we've got PBO is now set back to auto again. Okay. I'm going to leave PBO on, you know what, I'm going to set PBO to disabled. Okay. Save and exit. And it looks like it's doing memory retraining. There's our post beep again. So now we get to go to advanced. You see AMD overclocking warning. Damage caused by use of your AMD processor outside of specification or in excess of factory settings are not covered under your AMD system warranty. Are not covered under your AMD product warranty and may not be covered by your system manufacturer's warranty. Yeah, we're just going to back out of there. Let me see. Is it in here? Memory context restore. Let's go ahead and turn that on. And we'll save and exit. There we go. And it looks like Grub has started up. So since I have the CSM turned on, I suppose I could plug in one of the network controllers and PXE boot this thing to something such as memtest, which I should probably do. There we go. Whoa. Sure, go ahead and knock the camera around. Let's see, boot override. Do I not have the network controllers enabled? This will be under integrated peripherals, onboard and LAN controller enabled. LAN option ROM needs to be enabled. And then does it automatically put those on the boot order? Nope. Need to save, exit, and go back in. Oh, there we go. There we go. Let me see. B06 and B07. I don't know, let's pick one. So that, 2.5 gigabit. Got a client MAC address. It's requesting DHC. Oh, there we go. Got the right one on the first try. How about that? MT86 plus V5. Let's force multi-threading. Okay, I guess it ignores USB keyboards. Yeah, this really needs to be on a... This really needs to be run multi-threaded. So let's try the other version of MTest86. Of MemTest86, not MTest. I suppose that there could... I entirely suppose that there could be a computing memory testing product out there called MTest. Beep. There we go. You know what? I think for now I'm going to put the network device at the very beginning of the boot order. So that way I don't have to keep going into the BIOS every single time I reset the system. So that way I can select the network adapter's boot ROM. And yes, this monitor is quite slow to respond to an input signal. So basically the time between the computer feeding the monitor an input signal and the monitor actually coming up and displaying that signal is abnormally long. Okay, let's do MT86 normal boot. Oh, this will be funny. I don't know why, but I'm just laughing at that. Holy crap, more than... Yeah, we've got 80K of L1. That 1 meg of L2 and 64 megs of L3. 80K of L1? Shouldn't it be like 512K? I think the BIOS was reporting 512K of L1. Interesting. But we are running it DDR5 8000. 48 gigs of it. So I'll let this thing sit here and mem test away. Well, as you can see, it's been about 4 hours and change since the last piece of video was recorded. And now, yeah, obviously it's passed at DDR5 8000. Pass complete, no errors, press escape to exit. Except it's expecting a PS2 keyboard, and obviously we don't have one of those on this system anymore because we don't actually happen to have any PS2 ports. So I'll hit this fancy dancy little reset button here. Watch as the camera begins to drift in and out of focus because I forgot to lock the focus. Go beep, and we are once again back in the system setup. So I'll drag the network controller back out, move the hard disk all the way to the front of the boot order. So let's go ahead, save and exit setup, and just see what happens here. I do fully expect that I will have to redo certain configurations, such as my fan control config and whatnot. Huh, now we're hanging around on post. Let's see, well, listen to... No, it won't either. Huh, okay. Yeah, I imagine that I'll probably need to update the BIOS on this board at some point or another. Probably on the sooner side of now, if I had to guess. Well, let's just try power cycle and see what happens. Alright. Grub is started. There are some kernel... I was about to say there are some unknown chip XID 648 and 64A. Huh. Okay. Your CPU's had inconsistent variable MTRR settings, config failed. AMD GPU, unable to locate a BIOS ROM, fatal error during GPU initialization. Probe with driver, AMD GPU failed with error -22. Okay, that doesn't sound good. And as we can see, the camera is losing the plot. So, okay, it's not happy about something. The read FPDMA queued on a drive just failed. And I did not hear the happy-go-lucky whirring noise of fan config starting. So... well, we logged in frighteningly fast. Which is good. We have 2 instances of psensor, and you see we are connected to the Wi-Fi, which is neat. Obviously things are a little bit screwed up at the moment. Not a lot of data showing in psensor. So given how I was seeing errors about AMD GPU losing the plot, I am going to open up Radeon Top. And it says, okay. So yeah, obviously our GPU is alive. And we've got acceleration. Looks like his GLX gears seems to be running okay. Let's open this up and see what we've got. Okay, so our wireless is working. Our Bluetooth appears to be alive and well. Let's look at an LS-USB here. Okay, MSI, Mystic Light, root hubs, card reader, another root hub, another hub, the mouse. Foxconn Han Hide gives absolutely no information as to what the device in question actually is. MicroStar International USB audio. Okay. Another root hub, root hubs every which way. The Cypress Semiconductor keyboard hub, that's my PS2 to USB converter, since I do have a USB keyboard attached to it at the moment. So, and then let's do an LSPC. Oh my, that's a lot of PCI devices. We've got more bridges than there are county roads in East Texas. So let's filter all that junk out. Okay, once we filter out all the bridges and whatnot, here's what we're left with. Device 14D9, that's an IOMMU. We have an SN bus controller. We've got our graphics card, our graphics card's audio hardware. We have our two NVMe SSDs, the Crucial T700 and the WD Black SN770. It notes that it's a DRAM-less SSD, the SN770. We have two Ethernet controllers, so RTL8125 and an 8126. Qualcomm WCN 785X. Okay, it's being called out as the Fast Connect 7800. And then we've got USB SATA, USB SATA, two more USB controllers. AMD ATI Granite Ridge. Okay, that may be what AMD GPU was complaining about. I forgot that the CPU has integrated Radeon graphics. And then we've got its audio controller. We have an AMD encryption controller, probably for the TPM. Two more USB controllers, an audio controller, probably also part of the Radeon graphics. And then we have another USB controller. So once we filter out all the bridges and all of the USB controllers, we're left with pretty much our only devices of interest: IOMMU, SN bus, the graphics card and its onboard audio hardware, the NVMe SSDs, the Ethernet controllers, the wireless controller, the two SATA controllers, and the CPU's integrated Radeon hardware, the TPM, I think that, or the encryption controller, and then the audio hardware from somewhere. I don't know if that's the onboard audio. We could probably have a look at Pavu control. And there we go, jumping to pulse audio volume control. We've got digital output, automatically set itself to SPDIF, Sony Philips digital interchange format, which is the optical output on the back. Okay, let's see. Config. Okay, we've got USB audio from somewhere. We've got the CPUs, graphics controllers, built-in audio hardware, and then we've got the RX 580's built-in audio hardware, so nothing special there. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is run sensors, run the Sensors Detect program to detect all of the new sensor hardware. On this system. So I don't know why it's reporting fan 1 at 1 RPM, unless that's just because fan control is not running and therefore the GPU is using its onboard fan profile. We have like no system voltage information. No, I don't want to paste that. Thank you very little. We have like no system voltage information or anything like that. This is probably one of these things that'll be cleared up with a new Linux install, because as portable as Linux is between systems, there are some things that, there are a few things that just don't translate well between system cores, and this is one of these things. Kernel modules required for sensors detection and whatnot are one of those things that does not quite translate well. So yeah, we're missing a lot of information from here. So oh my, let me see. I imagine fan control has since gone boom, and a couple of services have also gone boom. So let's see. Yeah, that's obviously not working. Configuration appears to be outdated. Yes, it has. Well, yes, it is. So I will fix that on my own time. Device path of hardware mon 1, 2, 3, and then device name has been changed. Config appears to be outdated. Please run pwm config again. So that is exactly what I expected. But look at that. Hey, we have 24 threads of processor horsepower to play with. Actually, I need to expand this a little bit. We have 24 threads of processor horsepower to play with. So let's see. Let's open HTOP. Yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, 24 threads. Everything appears to be good. All low temperatures and whatnot. And we've got 48 gigs of RAM installed. HTOP is showing 46.1 gigs, so I don't know if a little bit of that's been hardware reserved or anything like that. But I'm not particularly complaining. And so let's see what it's yelling. Let's see what it was yelling about. ATA 1 exception, error mask 10. Error action frozen, hierarchy stat, connection status changed, error PHY ready change, com wake, device exchange, failed command, read FPDMA queued, tag 1, NCQ DMA 496N, ATA bus error, ATA 1 hard resetting link. So I don't know. And then let's see, ATA 1 SATA link up 6 gigabits, configured for UDMA 133. Unaligned write command, error handling complete. Okay, that'd be SDA. List my block devices. SDA, SDA1, home crypt. Okay, so it's unhappy about the home SSD. Let's just tell it everything. No, I don't want to paste random stuff. Thank you very little. Okay, 2 terabytes. No raw read errors. 13,973 power on hours. 106 power cycle counts. Okay. Could have just been uppity about something. No uncorrectable errors. Everything appears to be good. Transition from drive FI ready to FI not ready. Device to host register FIS is sent to a COM reset. Okay. So probably just the system getting uppity about something. Rebuilt hardware database was skipped because of an unmet condition. Check. So, yeah, probably with as big of a change as we just made to the system, it's probably a good idea to go ahead. Okay, let's see. Direct rendering manager. Okay. ROM has no idea what's going on here. Cannot assign bogus alignment. Unable to locate a BIOS ROM. Okay, this is going to be the PCI device with this address here. And okay, yeah, that's the integrated Radeon graphics. It might actually be disabled at the moment because I have a dedicated GPU installed, so I don't have to worry about any of that. App Armor, initializing EVM extended attributes. So, memory management. Okay. It's enumerating a bunch of new devices. So, initializing and everything like that. R8169, eNodev, unknown chip ID, unknown chip XID, 64A, contact the R8169 maintainers. Okay. So this will be what this is complaining about whatever device is on the other end. Whatever device has PCI address 7. So 7. Okay, this is going to be the 5 gigabit controller. So just give me everything. And yeah, we only have one Ethernet device. Okay. So that'll either require that'll either require tooling around with drivers. And why do we have pulsing network activity? I don't know, let's do a speed test. Last time I tried the speed test CLI utility, it was acting quite busticated. So I have no idea how this is going to do. Okay, it looks like it's going to work. Maybe. Average of 563 down. And who knows up. Okay. Yeah, the upload seems a little bit broken. So let's open Firefox and... Wow, that was fast. I don't know, let's do a speed test, see what happens. Mind you, this speed test is happening with an almost freshly booted system, so all the in-memory caches and whatnot are going to be stone cold. Wow. That's impressive. 800 megabits plus down. Holy crap on a cracker. 770 plus up. one thing I like to do with the newly installed network adapters is after doing a speed test like this, I'll call up the kernel log again. Oh, I don't like that. That's not good. Because that's my home drive. That's my home SSD that it's complaining about. Yeah, that needs to be addressed on the sooner side of immediately. Okay. Oh, look. Looks like the internet's on fire. Interesting. Let's look at down detector just for the sheer amusement factor. Okay. Yeah, it looks like a few services might be having problems. Yeah. That reminds me, I have never seen so much red on down detector. Like, whenever CrowdStrike happened, basically they sent out a bad update and it bricked a bunch of systems. Whenever CrowdStrike happened, I had never seen so much red on down detector, ever. And that includes when Cloudflare and Level 3 had simultaneous outages. Like on a red all over down detector scale, if Level 3 and Cloudflare simultaneous outage was a 10, then CrowdStrike was a 15 out of 10. There was that much red. There was nothing but... It was red from the top here until almost the very bottom of the page, and still it was yellow. So that... We'll see, yeah. So 810 down, 762 up. Let's hit it again and see what happens. I'm wondering if we have a bad SATA cable or something, since some of these cables have been flexed around more than a little bit. If it is a bad SATA cable going to the home SSD, I'm not going to be looking forward to replacing it. Mainly because the power and SATA data cabling for my SSDs runs around the front of my case and is tightly squeezed between my two front exhaust fans. Yeah, 812 down, 759 up. Oh, well, it doesn't appear to be losing its mind at the moment. So, why is this showing in megabytes? Oh, because I have this set to megabits. Okay. But yeah. So for now, I think this is just about going to be all for now. So, and by the way, today is, November 2nd. Clocks are going back tonight by an hour. I know it's going to be way after that point by the time this video manages to hit YouTube. Oh, speaking of drives and whatnot, we've got Steam games and our 2TB encrypted drive. Let's see what happens here. See if this drive comes back up okay. This keyboard sucks, and so it's hard to type complicated passwords on it. Huh. Barely a spike in CPU usage, and the drive unlocked almost instantly. So, authentication is required to mount Steam games. Well, let's provide that authentication. It just mounts instantly. Of course, I'm actually signed out of Steam right now because I signed out of a bunch of stuff before I brought the old system core down for the last time. So, let's go ahead and eject everything. File system has been disconnected. Good for it. Now, yeah, that password's not correct. Again, this keyboard sucks, and so typing really anything of a password also happens to suck. Quite badly, in fact. So, but yeah, I think that will just about cover it for now. Let's shut it down and see how fast it, well, actually, I have a better idea. Let's hit suspend and see if it manages to suspend and resume properly. Well, looks like it went to RAM. Yeah, it looks like it locked the screen and went to suspend. There is obviously some device power still on because I'm a bit of a pain to readjust the camera and whatnot, but the RAM still obviously has power. The USB controller still has power because I can see my PS2 to USB adapter blinking away back here. So I imagine that if I just give it any amount of keyboard input, or mouse input at that, it'll wake up. Let's try it. Okay, mouse does nothing. Keyboard does nothing. Okay, apparently I have to hit the button. And we're up and running. That was fast. I could... Now I don't want to configure any displays, but thank you. So yeah, that was nice. Okay, let's see how it does with hibernating. Okay. Locks a screen, shuts down PCIe devices. And instantly wakes itself back up. And wants me to configure a display. Oh, there we go. Now it's hibernated. And what hibernating does is it basically saves the current state of memory to disk, and then it turns the system power completely off. So I can drop the standby power and everything if I wanted to. And I can power it back up normally. Alright, post. There's the post screen. And we are about to start Grub again. There we go, Grub starts. Unlock the root drive. You'll probably detect that it'll be coming up out of hibernation. Actually never hibernated the main workstation in the more than 8 years that I've been running it. So it says set up successfully. So either the resuming from hibernation message has been masked somehow, has been masked off somehow, or it has just wandered off into the weeds. Yeah, or it's just irretrievably wandered off into the weeds somewhere in a location from which it will never return. And I think I've got the LED okay, it's losing its mind at one of the NVMe drives. And I think I've got the LED, the hard disk activity indicator LED hooked up wrong. Because I don't see it doing, well, anything. Okay, yep, I had it. There we go, resuming from hibernation. Oh, failed to load image, recovering. Huh. Okay, so looks like for whatever reason the NVMe SSDs don't like resuming from hibernation state, it looks like. So yeah, I'll go ahead, shut this thing down, and I believe that will bring this part of the video to a close. Okay, what's holding up the shutdown process? It's trying to stop APC UPSD. Of course, APC UPSD is probably trying frantically to get a lock on the UPS that is not actually attached to this system. And there we go. And there it goes. Awesome. This is TCG Productions. Peace out, guys. Peace out. And I will see y'all in the next one. I guess the camera refuses to get focus lock on anything. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay, cool.